I came home 3 days early, stepped into my own hallway with a paper cup of terrible airport coffee, and smelled mesquite smoke rolling out of my backyard. We don't own a grill. There was a slate gray Audi in my spot, music thumping low like a heartbeat you can't unhear, and in my kitchen, a guy in a Nike hoodie looked me dead in the eye and said, "Calm as you please. You can't be in here. This is private property." I laughed the way your body laughs when it has no script. Told him this was my house, and he slid a deed out of a manila folder, like a magician producing a rabbit stamps and signatures, and everything neat like somebody had ironed the paper. Then the HOA president Deirdre Sloan swept in with posture and pearls and a phone held high, Mason. "Are you all right?" she said then to me, with this soft church lady voice. "Ryan, you're back early." And in the same breath, she was telling 911. There was a trespasser who seemed confused. I called 911 too. So there we were, in the same room reporting opposite universes. The deputy said he couldn't authenticate deeds in a kitchen, told us to take it up with the county. And while he talked, my wife April slipped in with her carry-on. Eyes already scanning the paperwork because April speaks fluent paper. She held the page to the light, traced the watermark with a fingertip, and murmured for me only, "County changed stock this spring. If this is 6 months old, I'm the Queen of England." By morning, Mason was everywhere, shaking hands, walking dogs, carrying groceries, like a campaign commercial. And Deirdre floated door to door, sharing glossy concern about identity theft. How sad, how scary, how we should be compassionate to a rattled neighbor. And casseroles started landing on my porch for the kid living in my house. April sat at our dining table with a magnifying glass and a laptop metadata. On the deed was fresh. The notary name, Atessa Quinn, had been terminated months ago at Evergreen Credit Union. Yet her stamp on this thing looked current, and a breadcrumb trail led us to Riverbend Self-Storage Unit B12, where Tessa lived out of an air mattress with 3 burner phones and the look of someone who jumps at light. She told us a well-dressed woman knew about her son's medical bills, knew the exact number offered $6,000 in cash for what was pitched as family gift paperwork. She glanced at Deirdre's photo and flinched like she'd touched a fence. That night, someone jimmied Tessa's lock and spray-painted the back wall with block letters. "Last chance, stop talking." And a second line like a knife. "We know where your boy sleeps. I'm a practical. Keep your head down. Show up on time." Kinda man, but standing in that cold metal unit smelling paint and fear, my knuckles went numb. You know what I mean. You realize it's not just a scam, it's a machine. Then the rumor mill fired up edited ring clips of me knocking on my own door, captions about harassment, and the deputy came back with a complaint that I'd made threats. My boss called with that careful tone, like he's tiptoeing on ice. Clients had seen the neighborhood posts. "Take unpaid time," he said then later. "We have to let you go." And yeah, that happened. It wasn't just my house they were taking. It was my name. We printed receipts and went to the emergency HOA meeting at the clubhouse folding chairs, and coffee that tasted like cardboard, and we laid out a clean timeline. Watermark change notary. Termination storage unit photos. With the threats blurred a simple ladder of facts, the kind you can climb with both hands. Deirdre stood with one tissue. No binder didn't deny a single data point, just rotated the lens. Said we were all being toyed with by outside harassers, that they were victims of a long vendetta, that whoever hurt an elderly man in another state was now framing her family and had tricked us too, and she had pre-written reports to read, and a break in her voice right where the room wanted it. Mason did a soft collapse. I just wanted a home, and you could feel the air tilt toward them. Right there, while the deputy read a temporary restraining order that kept me 500 feet from the people squatting in my kitchen, my phone buzzed with the call that ended my job, and I stood in a room full of neighbors, watching my life shrink 2 sizes. That was the midpoint twist, wrapped in plain paper. The guardianship trap. A petition landed at County Health for a 72-hour mental evaluation on me. Edited clips, witness statements about my temper. A letter from a therapist I'd never met. And it clicked. Get me held appoint an emergency guardian to protect my assets and sell my house while I'm in a quiet room trying to say I don't belong there. That night, I asked April the question I swore I'd never say out loud. What if I am losing it? She took my hand and said, "You're under siege, and the siege is designed to make you doubt yourself." Then she called in every favor we had. We spent what we'd saved for a deck, and maybe for braces someday, on 3 people who fight ghosts for a living. Maya Chen on digital forensics, Garrity and Sons on signatures, and a private investigator named Hector, who could charm a gate code out of granite. Maya pulled logs from the e-notary portal credentials, still pinging after Tessa's termination. Same token used twice in 90 days, from a co-working space on Harbor Avenue. The kind of sloppy backdoor folks assume nobody checks, and Hector got the footage held longer than 30 days, because the manager teaches his niece piano, while Garrity rolled out lamps and microscopes and said things like hesitation tremor and patching stroke that sound like sword moves, but mean forgery under a microscope. By noon, we had a triangle you could hang a case on, unauthorized portal access, tied to a place and a time deed. Metadata born weeks, not months earlier, and a signature analysis that said the stamp was real, but the document was not. Plus, Hector pulled cell site data on a burner linked to Mason that put him in Alta Mesa. The same weekend, an elderly man got declared incompetent, and his home liquidated under guardianship, and if your stomach didn't drop at that. Mine did for you. We walked into the precinct at dawn with printouts that don't blink. The deputy read, made calls, and by lunch, 2 suits from the DA were in my living room, asking Deirdre for her devices. She smiled like a mechanic, lifted the hood, and then realized the camera was running. "This is a misunderstanding," she said, and they answered. "Ma'am, you're under arrest," and Mason went into the performance of his life, palms up, voice cracking. "I am the victim." And for half a second, even I felt it in my ribs. That's how good he was. The cuffs didn't care. The ending isn't fireworks. It's hearings and continuances and a carpet the color of wet cardboard. 6 months of explaining the same 3 facts to people who ask you nicely to explain them again. Maya talking tokens and logs in clean sentences, while a juror in a denim jacket took notes. Like he was learning a trade, Garrity tracing pen lifts under a lens. Tessa telling the truth with her hands in her lap, because she's not a villain. She's a person who said yes when a neat envelope promised to fix a number that kept her up at night. It wasn't just us. The enterprise stretched across 3 states. The guardianship trick had fingerprints, and in the end, Deirdre took years in state with restitution. Mason took time and community service, and both of them kept performing innocence like muscle memory. We got our house back, but it cost 60 plus in fees and experts, and the job I thought I'd retire from. Now I work claims 2 towns over. It's honest work, I sleep better. April did the brave thing and started therapy. Our HOA publishes every transaction, and needs 2 signatures for anything bigger than a stapler. Mrs. Alvarez brought a cherry pie and said, "I was wrong," which tasted like more than cherries, half the cul-de-sac. Apologized in their own way. Half won't meet my eyes. And honestly, I prefer the pie. A year later, we got a letter that started with "Thank you for not quitting" from the daughter of a man in Alta Mesa. Closure finally felt like peace and not a question, and I sat on our back steps holding that paper while dusk turned the yard blue and the grill we finally bought clicked and sighed, and I thought about the first night I smelled smoke and didn't own a grill. Now we invite fewer people and we verify more. We changed banks, added redundancies, and I sleep as well as a man sleeps who counts the silverware after the party. So here's my take, the one I wish someone had whispered in my ear on day 1. Trust is not a personality trait. It's a contract, and contracts deserve signatures. You can prove and dates that make sense, be kind, but verify, ask to see the ID again. And if someone tells you it's rude to check what they're really asking for is your keys. Some of you will say, "I should have gone nuclear sooner." Some will say, "I should have walked to save my peace." Where's the line for you between vigilance and paranoia, between being neighborly and being naive? Drop your call. Tell me if you've ever watched a crowd pick the wrong villain. Maybe pick the wrong one yourself. And if this made you double-check your locks or your biases, hit like, hit subscribe, share it with the one neighbor who needs to hear it, and tell me in the comments what you think justice should look like when the paperwork is the weapon.